this was the most obvious and out there, but obvious situation we've ever seen in the game, I would have thought. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Eddie and Jimmy this Monday morning. Jim, I'm coming to you loud and clear, I hope, from Sydney, up here for some meetings and things. But welcome. Thanks to Fiji Airways and our great friends at Hyundai. What a week it has been in football. What a big week, Jimmy. It's been unbelievable, hasn't it? God almighty.
It has. We had some close results. 5 games decided by under 10 points. It was a pretty tight Saturday of football. But let's go straight to the matter of hand.
Was there football on? Was there? I can't remember any of that.
There was. Thursday night, Nick Dacos' 100th game. They celebrated in style, and wasn't he magnificent? Before we get to the serious matter, the other serious matter is, I know sometimes, Ed, that you've had the nickname Eddie everywhere. Are you going to add senior coach to the next thing that you are going to put on your resume? Of course, you single-handedly, I'm hearing, got the Pies over the line with your inspiring speech during the week.
I don't know about that. At three-quarter time, I thought that might have been the last I'd ever get invited back to the Magpies. But no, they played beautifully, didn't they, in that last quarter? Of course, Nick Dacos was sensational. But no, it was great to head down to the club. I was invited down by Fly and the team, and Craig Kelly introduced me to the boys. I don't go back to the club. I wanted to stay away as much as possible, even though everyone knows how much I love the club, and I speak to everybody on the phone a fair bit and occasionally drop by the rooms. But you know, I've always been of the thought that once you finish, you should let everybody have a bit of space. But I was invited down to have a chat to the boys about the importance of the Carlton game on Thursday. And sorry, when was it? On Wednesday. I went down and spoke to them, and then Thursday was the game. So it was great. And I was invited by Fly to come into the rooms to sing the song. I brought the South Korean Consul General with me, which I thought was very funny because I mentioned to Brian Taylor. I said, he's the Consul General's over here. And Brian said to me, which one's the South Korean Consul General? I said, just have a think for a second there, Brian. Have a look at the people standing over there. Which one do you reckon? So he was able to find him and got him on Roaming Brian, which was wonderful. But it was great. The boys really, I really enjoyed it, Jim, because they embraced the whole concept of Collingwood and Carlton. And, you know, in the last quarter, they came out and really fought hard. So if it gave them a scintilla of difference, then I'm happy and it wasn't worth a waste of time, that's for sure.
Well, let's get to the major talking point, of course. You know, Collingwood was magnificent. Ed, I'm just going to say the name and then I'll let you get what you want off your chest. Elijah Hollands.
No, look, this is a vexed situation. And I think it's one of those ones you can come off the long run on these things and everybody has a say. We need to get to the bottom. Let Carlton have their investigation into it. I'm just going to quickly look up a line here that I want to discuss. Now, this might be the old saying, mate, every hammer only sees a nail. And you know that I've been pretty red hot on trying to sort out the AFL drug rules over a number of years now, going right back to the first time it was actually presented to the presidents back in 2005, I think it was. Anyway, the new rules came out a couple of weeks ago. There's one part of this, Jim, that I want to discuss. I want to throw up to you. Now, you've been in the football club experience as a player during all this, and I've been there as a president. So let me just put this to you, okay? The new rules which are coming in, the 2026 AFL drug rules, and I read from the top, there's the removal of strikes, there's hair testing implementation, there's public use suspensions, there's AFLW inclusion. But 2 points that I want to get to are fitness to play assessment, and that is, and I quote, if a player continues to test positive, they'll be referred to an independent panel for a, quote, fitness to play assessment, which may include intensive treatment or being deemed unavailable for selection. Then there is the next point that says confidentiality and penalties. While some information is shared with club leaders, brackets, president, CEO, general manager of football, after multiple positive tests, confidentiality remains with a $250,000 fine for any breach. And I also believe that also there is suspension. So let me just float this as a conversation piece, okay? And we're not going after anyone today just yet because we want to get all the information before that happens. My point has been always, Jim, on this is that if there's no consequences to an action, then does it ever actually exist? Now, yes, we're going to go into hair testing, and yes, it is a little bit more stringent, but we haven't got any real penalties for players as such in this situation. The biggest penalty that has been put out by this new drug code is for a doctor or a president or for the GM of football if they tell the coach. Okay? That's a $250,000 fine and immediately being sacked. What that does to me is what has always been the situation with the AFL rules, and that is it's don't ask, we won't tell. So you're down there as a club president and you're hearing stories or you're suspicious of situations. You're asking everybody what's going on. And in fact, you're not allowed to ask anyone what's going on. You're working in the dark. So my point is, it's all very well for the AFL to come into Carlton now and say, why didn't you know? When their rules are, you can't ask. Now, we don't know whether this is a drug situation or a mental health situation or whatever. My point to you, Jim, is this. If we continue to operate with one hand or both hands tied behind our back, that we have this ridiculous situation that a doctor can know, but not the coach who's in charge of day-to-day, that you can't actually say to people, hey, listen, player A has had some issues, we need to keep an eye on this situation. Or more to my point, if somebody has a problem, get them off the ground, don't let them play, put them into rehabilitation, put them into medical facilities or whatever help they require, but don't put them up for selection. So my point has always been that the rule is there to support the players, which we're all for, but not support them to the extent that they can still get on a ground in a week where they might have tested or at least reported themselves, self-reported. Now, does that make sense to you, what I'm saying?
Yeah, look, I completely understand call it the angle or the point of view you're making, but surely it doesn't apply with the Elijah Hollands situation. And you didn't have to know what was wrong, but you knew that there was something wrong. And for me...
Okay, so my point, can I put to you though, Jim, I want to get your point, but I just want to finish this point. If you're not allowed to ask, you're not allowed to ask. You've got to turn a blind eye.
No, you're like...
So if the players
I get that, but that didn't apply here. Like, you didn't have to ask, oh, is he on drugs or do you know something? There was something clearly wrong, and you should go,
I agree with you.
Hey, I think there's something clearly wrong with Elijah. He needs to either be removed before the game or, hang on, we need to sit him here.
So I totally agree with that. So, okay, there's 2 points I'm making. Okay, we'll get to your point in a second. My point is that since the drug rules have come in, there has been not only an atmosphere, it has been legislated that you are not allowed to ask. You are not allowed to encroach into this area, okay? So clubs have turned a blind eye. Now, suddenly, when it all blows up, everyone goes, oh, everyone should have known. Everybody should have been involved in it. And you're right, maybe they should have. Coming back to your point, yes, of course he should have been dragged off the ground. Everyone in the stadium was watching it. Everyone was getting text messages and Instagram accounts of what was going on. So, yes, Carlton need to answer that problem. My position today, trying to look forward to come up with a solution, Jim, is this. We need to have a deep dive into where we are as a sport in relation to mental health, into drugs and alcohol, and into these situations. And I think that we have to completely revamp this case at the moment, these drug rules that have come in, which legislate that a doctor cannot speak to a coach about the mental stroke drug situation of a player. They're all intertwined at various stages. And it just makes no sense to me that somebody in your organisation has to actively hide the truth from a senior coach or the coaching body or the selection committee through the week and on match day. It makes no sense to me. We're making it harder than it needs to be.
Yeah, and I don't disagree with any of those points, Ed. And I think probably where I'm sort of asking questions back at you is your points are valid, but for the 2 hours of playing, I don't think you can't put your hand. You can't say, "Oh, we're putting our hands up because the new drugs code. I'm not allowed to talk." This was just a pure welfare thing, and we don't even know whether it was drugs, it was mental health, it was alcohol, could be anything. But for my point of view from it is, we all sit on text messages and WhatsApp chats when a game of footy. That's half the banter and half the fun now of watching the footy. It's whatever group chat you're on with, whether it's with Carlton or Collingwood for that game or different groups. And I was sitting on the couch, and the thing that hit home to me pretty hard, Ed, is, like yourself and like a lot of people watching the footy, being a father and a dad, that I was actually genuinely concerned, and something triggers in your mind. You know it's not right, and we've seen enough of society and enough of things on football field, and you combine that, you get that's not right, what's going on there. And when there's a teenager sitting on my couch going, that's not right, and so then immediately, if we can see that, and then people saw it at the stands, and we're seeing all, the videos, that's the thing of camera phones. What I can't get my head around, and it feels like I'm bashing Carlton a bit, but I'm not minimising the personal responsibility of Elijah Hollands either. So that's one factor. I think we've all taken that, as given. He'll need to deal with it from a personal point of view, but from a Carlton and a care point of view, I think it speaks to how tunnel vision Carlton are at the moment because of all the pressure on and off the field. But how do you walk in, and you and I have lived this more than just as much as anybody else, how do you walk from wherever the car park is into the change rooms? You see players, you see physios, you see coaches, you see trainers, you see doctors, you see coaching staff, and then all that happens, and you're there probably 2 hours before the game. Then you have the game. There's that many people now wearing headphones with little microphones coming out because they want to listen to what's happening in the coach's box. There's things that happen at quarter time. There's things that happen at halftime. How does it slip through the cracks? And we're not talking about an inexperienced group here. From Graham Wright to, even their board and their football director, to Chris Davies, one of the most experienced football managers in the game, to Michael Voss, 10 years as coach and 15 years as an elite player, then all the assistant coaches. Am I making my point enough here, Ed, that how does it get through?
Well, I'll see you in Rasia.
The final bit I want to make on that, watching it as a dad, it would have been hard enough seeing a young man go through that, but then it's being played out in front of 85,000 people and millions of people at home. And
I'll see you in Rasia, mate. How does the ARC not see it?
Correct. And that's my final point I've got written down here. What are you doing? You told us you were there to watch everything. We actually had a player only, I reckon, 48 hours later, maybe a little bit more, the afternoon game of Essendon, where the doctor cleared him for Essendon, but the ARC said, no, we've been watching him, get him off the ground. So what are you watching?
So, Jim, this is why I'm loath to actually go into any detail until more detail comes out. I agree with everything you're saying. I probably started with the next point of that, and that is I just think that it clearly didn't work. Now, this was the most obvious and out there, but obvious situation we've ever seen in the game, I would have thought.
Yeah.
We have had ridiculous situations where players with concussion have been left on. I mean, I remember Ty Vickery went for a mark all on his own when the ball wasn't within 100 metres of him one time when he was concussed. So, again, there are sort of precedents for this. I'm with you. I don't have any answer to it. So, Jim, we said that back in round one when we were discussing the drug rules, which I don't think have been debated enough, and it actually was put through in the cover of darkness on a Thursday afternoon on the day that they announced the NFL and then announced it was going to be a 2 o'clock or 2:30 grand final in Kylie Minogue. So they took out the trash, the AFL, in that situation. The point that I was making way back then and have always made is there just seems to be this complete, I don't know, hiding or turning away, averting your gaze from these issues. And we hide behind this, it's a mental health issue or it's whatever the case may be. And yes, we've got to get in behind the player. And I've always argued that we also have to protect the code as well. Now, you mentioned before that 2 million people were watching that game and 80,000 were there on the day. That's a lot of witnesses in 5 years' time if Elijah Hollands comes back and said, I was put out in the ground in a way that was counterproductive to me being able to survive.
Graham Wright admitted in his presser yesterday about 11 o'clock, he said we were aware that something was up. Yeah. So then leads to the next question, well, what are we doing?
Well, they're going to get flogged, aren't they? They have to. They have to. But again, I'm not trying to bail Carlton out here by any stretch, and nor am I trying to, as I said, be the hammer looking for a nail on something that is more than a hobby horse for me. But to me, it's systematic of the whole vibe, as Dennis Donito would say, around these situations where everyone just seems to tiptoe around situations like this. I mean, surely somebody. Did anyone from the media go down and ask, on the bench, what the hell was going on?
So I want to ask you then, Ed.
Anybody?
I know we could go around, and it feels like we're smashing Carlton, and they're going to get their right whack. But I want to ask you, because the other talking point out of it was, were Collingwood players aware of Elijah Hollands? And that's not, putting anything on Collingwood, but you were down in the Collingwood rooms and doing your bit.
I didn't hear anything.
Was there any discussion down there?
I went down the rooms. I was with the Consul General singing the song and got out. I didn't want to hang around. So, no, I didn't speak to anyone there. But we've heard Bo McCreary on the Sunday Footy Show and other people speak of it in that situation. Look, whether the Collingwood players, you only had to look at the vision to see the Carlton players were sort of turning away from him because he was flapping his arms and things like that. I keep saying to Jim that, the contract that my son as a college footballer in America signs says that he must report any suspicion whatsoever if he thinks that one of his teammates has either got a concussion or associated mental health or any other situation that is mitigating against him playing properly. Okay? So let's calm this all down, and I'll put to you the same question you just put to me, Jim, and that is, if the opposition players saw it, if the umpires must have been sort of aware of it, if the Carlton players were aware of it, if he was on for 4 quarters, if everybody in the stadium was sending text messages and Instagrams and X vision around the whole place, if every commentary box in the joint was talking about it, if we've got the ARC, etc., how the hell does this slip through? And that's why I'm saying, because we have actually put in place legislation to stop you trying to look at these things. Now, that's one part. I agree with you on the second part. Once it happened, I've got no idea how he stayed out there. I've got no idea.
You're the perfect person to ask this question, and it's in 2 parts. You sit there, and we always used to get the camera shots of how passionately you watch the game, which is fantastic as a club president. What would you do if that was a Collingwood player or your president of Carlton? Firstly, straight after the game, and then in the next 48 hours as president, are you getting the board together? What are you doing? What is your flow chart of actions?
Well, the first thing, I was a bit more interventionist because I'm a journalist. That's what I do. So, just as, Xander, my son, with the Zach Butters, went to Zach Butters, got the interview, but also went to the umpire and got told to get lost. You go straight to the source. If somebody had come up to me and said, have you seen this video? I watch the game. I'm not watching videos. So I was actually sitting in the box watching the game. And as luck would have it, Xander was sitting next to me and he said, geez, have you seen this? And I said, no, what are you talking about? In between, watching Daniel Gorringe having a nervous breakdown because he was going to get another tattoo. So all that was going on. And I was having a convivial night with Josh Giddey and, all the other people that are in the box, that sort of thing. So it wasn't like I was president watching. But to answer your question, I would have gone straight to the coach's box or straight down to the bench or straight down at halftime or quarter time or whatever the time. I would have sent a text to someone. It would have been all points bulletin. I would have been yelling at the CEO or anyone who was sitting around, get down there and find out what the hell's going on. Okay, now that's if the Carlton people who were in my position had any idea of what was going on. But certainly after the game, once it happened, there would have been. So after the game, everyone would have got right. Everyone would have been called in. What's going on? And if only to prepare the coach for the press conference. And then, of course, you would have, your own equivalent of a royal commission. Yeah. Because, for a number of reasons, directors are liable for these things. you've got to get that right. I mean, you'd be calling in the doctors. What's going on? How did this get through? What is the situation? Are we, and I don't doubt that Carlton are doing that, finding out what actually was wrong with Elijah Hollands. I mean, who knows? Maybe he was okay before the game, Jim. Maybe he just had a mental health episode once he got onto the ground. I mean, there's a lot of things. I mean, I don't know the kid's background mentally. I've never met the kid. I don't know if he's a smart kid or he's not, or we don't know enough about it. So I'm really conscious not to join in the kicking on this.
I just wanted you to paint the picture as being a leader of a football club, because there was the game day situation, which is how you handle it, but then the next 48 hours, because I've sat on a board as well. You are, I don't want to minimise it, you are the oversight committee to have a look at all this, and your compliance and health and safety is one of the big things. And as you said, you're liable for a lot of this stuff being a director.
Yeah, but you have to be all over it. And look, and then the AFL, I mean, look, the phone calls from the AFL to Carlton would have been going, all day. There's no doubt about that. So no one will be ducking and weaving on this. And I think Graham Wright was good when he came out, and he said it as it was. We're going to let that go now. But, gee, they've got through a lot of people. I mean, so that's why I'm probably a very hyper-vigilant on this. When everyone is told, don't do anything, don't look, don't ask, you'll get fined $250,000, you'll get sacked. People put their hands off. I mean, it's very hard to get people to lean into things on their best day. There's so much litigation, there's so much public scrutiny, etc., that people turn away from these things these days. You see it in society, Jim. Once upon a time, if somebody attacks somebody, you'd jump in or try and do something. Now everyone takes a photo of it, gets the camera going. It's a different mindset. So, I mean, I'm just, a bloke in a pub talking at the moment, really. Until you actually know the situation. What I'm saying, though, is at the end of all this, we have to have a completely new look at all of these things. The fitness of players getting onto a ground in football going forward. We need to have a lot more to it. And since 2005, since that drug rule has come in, those who are closest to the players involved are the people who are the furthest away from it. So I do sort of take a little bit of umbrage that the AFL are, pointing the finger at everybody in this situation. No, they have stopped people actively getting involved, okay? The AFLPA have actively tried to keep all the money for mental health at the PA and not give it to the clubs, because they want the players to go to the PA. There's complete bullshit that a coach is not going to pick a player or is going to get him kicked off the list or whatever. A coach will play anyone who can get a kick. Right? It's other people around the place that need to be involved in this. Seriously, I had this fight before when I was still president of the club. The AFL decided they're going to put money into mental health, and the PA wanted that money. And the AFL wants to have the money. It should be right in there in the clubs. And then, yes, the PA stroke AFL should be auditing what's going on. But I just think it's been the land grab's been such, and this, this nonsense of protecting players with drug problems. Now, let me say that in a different way. Protect the players with drug problems, but you have to have some transparency in it. And certainly the complete idiocy that I've said numerous times of the coach being lied by omission to by his president, his football director, and his doctor has led, I think, to, in some ways, this manifesting itself on Thursday night.
Just we could keep talking about this, but you mentioned mental health. I thought Bailey Smith was fantastic in his post-match interview, of course, when the Cats defeated the Bulldogs. But we have Spud's game, but I think Bailey Smith was putting it on the agenda again about a men's mental health round. That could be only a positive thing to raise awareness and education. Should we move?
Yeah, that's a positive thing. You know, it's a nice publicity thing. It's all that. I'm getting a bit over a lot of the publicity stunts in football that look good, smell nice, and all that sort of stuff, but it doesn't get to the bottom of the problem. This has been a problem I've been screaming about for years, Jim. it broke my heart watching everything we've seen over the weekend for everyone involved. But geez, how many times can you warn people don't jump off the cliff? It is. It's just let's have a mental health round. But how about we change the rules?
Yeah.
Yeah, and let's differentiate between mental health and drug issues.
That's pretty fair. Let's turn our attention to some footy action. Ross Lyon. He's entertainment to say the least, especially after they have a loss in his post-match press conferences. Let's just take a bit of a look and listen at Ross Lyon and about the way he handles his post-match conferences after the game.
Do you have a sense of where you're at the moment? I mean,
yeah,
wins and losses. Yeah,
pretty good.
In the context of where the season is, or is it still too early to know? Or?
I think where we're at is the football we're playing. It's pretty good. We're more consistent tonight. Our best is very good, but we need more consistency. So we can't have some areas that put the team under pressure. But I would think we look okay. What are we? 2-4. I think 5 out of our first 6 opponents have all been finalists, prelim, back-to-back premiers and finalists bar one. And we've been in all of those games. I would think if you take out win-loss, we've improved. Is that rational and logical?
He's
It's a bit of the Greg Chappell. I'm playing well. I just keep getting out, isn't it?
Yeah, it is a bit like that. And I tell you what, if you go into a presser with Ross Lyon, you want to know your facts and figures because he's got them ready loaded to have a counter. And I don't mind the odd one he does is where he just turns the press conference into he starts interviewing the press. He always throws in and so what do you think? What do you think? And you can tell he's agitated, but he plays it on the break.
Yeah, but what doesn't a journalist say? Well, I think you're talking rubbish, Ross. You're 2-4, and I don't know if you have got any more. Got better. Or, that's a good point. I can understand what he's saying there. I mean, that's what press conferences are supposed to be. They're supposed to be to and fro. You're supposed to ask the questions.
Yeah,
you know what I've said forever. You'd love to make a living out of doing press conference interviews, wouldn't you? You could have so much fun.
Yeah. What someone say to me once, a question is an invitation to talk. How you answer it is up to you.
That's exactly what the tenet of a press conference is. You're invited into the media to ask the questions that you want to ask, and they respond accordingly. And then you can write your stories off the back of it. If they're fudging the answers, then they're covering up. If they're brutally honest, you get the story. And if they talk, if they feed the chooks, as Joe Bjelke-Petersen used to say, then as a chook, you're allowed to peck back. And that's what they should do more of. But, I think was Ross's stats, were they correct?
He does have it's like he's got them in his pocket. It's like his magic beans that he pulls out and he's ready to go. Like he goes, here, take that. As you said, using the feeding the chook sort of line, he's like, here, take that and take that one and then take that one. And you can almost hear the collective brains from the press going, hang on, I think he might have us on that one.
Yeah, but they go the wrong way. The answer when he said that, if I'd have been asking the questions, I would have said, that's all very well, Ross, but if you're going to get into the 8, you actually have to beat those people. The 8 or the 10, they have made an extra 2 spots for you, but you've actually got to beat these teams to get in there. That's how you go from outside to inside. You knock them out. What are you doing about that? But
that's why you end up where you are, Ed.
I suppose. Yeah.
Hey,
that's not having a go at the journos too much. No. Well, probably it is, but if you're going to turn up to a Ross Lyon, go in as Sam Newman would say. If you're going to a battle of wits, don't go half-armed.
That's right. Hey, it was an interesting night down at GMHBA Stadium. Dogs and cats, and I think we all thought this was going to be a lot closer. The special moment was, of course, Jez Cameron kicking 10 goals and back to the Jez of brilliance, but it was a tough night for the Western Bulldogs. Libba, 5th concussion in 4 seasons. James O'Donnell, hamstring. They've got a stack of injuries already, but the big one, of course, Ed, Sam Darcy doing his ACL. And how's this eerie fact that was getting around? He did it round 6 against Geelong at the same end that his dad did his ACL against Geelong round 6. That's a little bit eerie.
Yeah, it is. It is, isn't it? It's horrible. And the shots of my old mate Luke Darcy and Beck, his wife, and the rest of the family walking into the rooms at half time. I don't know if you saw the shot, but you said sitting there with your sons watching Elijah Hollands, me sitting there with Carla. Our hearts were breaking for the Darcy family. Just horrible situation, and it was really upsetting for everybody. Innocuous, these things happen, particularly when you've got the long levers, and of course there was a bit of structural damage done to that knee last year. So it is the one thing you do know with Sam Darcy is there's not going to be a stone unturned in getting it right. He'll obviously, be talking to the surgeons to get himself sorted out going forward. But just a horrible situation. And Rory Lobb as well did his hamstring. This. It's just horrible for the Dogs. I mean, I thought they were undermanned going in last week anyway. You and I both said we think Geelong will give them a bit of a kicking. It turned out that by the end of the game, I mean, they're basically just running around trying to hang on.
Yeah, they were hoping the siren would get closer and closer because they're losing players rapidly down to one on the bench. Hey, Ed.
And just one on that one before we leave the game. Brian Myers' injuries is an odd one as well. He sort of had an injury and then eventually they found out it was a Rico job.
Yeah,
ACL.
Yeah, they're still trying to get to the bottom of that one. It was a bizarre injury, and he's a massive loss for the Cats. So often, people go, how can the Cats, to use an Eddieism, thicken up the soup in the midfield? Of course, with Atkins does great things, but of course, Holmes and Bailey Smith. But they almost get away with it by having Manor and Myers being an extra mid who comes up from the half-forward line. They're the two big link players. So, that one caught, I think, everyone at Geelong off guard. Eddie, if you're in the car, you want to check the internet's good because it's going to be a busy tribunal. Again, John Noble is appealing his decision, but we also have Zach Butters, of course, appealing a previous decision. Your thoughts or how Port Adelaide will treat this? They can go down a couple of different angles. They can argue again, hey, you've got us because Nick Foote just gave you better evidence than Zach Butters and Ollie Wines. Or they can actually just argue the point regarding, hang on, you've got a tribunal member dialing in while he's in the car. That's not proper process.
Yeah, I think all the above. So I think they get the AFL in the process, and the AFL, I think, have, subliminally apologised for all that by giving Jason Johnson a pull on the nose, and the fact that the tribunal chair had to go to a meeting, so there was a deadline on deliberations. It seems to me, as we spoke about last week, that this was a scenario where the tribunal said, well, the umpire didn't change his mind, and Ollie Wines and Zach Butters, they were sort of thereabouts, but it was a little bit different. We want to look after the umpire because we don't want to be making it harder than it needs to be. He thought he was abused. We'll go with him. Now, if I'm Port Adelaide, I'm really going on the microphone. I'm a bit surprised they didn't go on the mic in a far better way. So first of all, I'd be into them about to basically dismiss the findings of the last tribunal because of almost misconduct, to be perfectly honest. So start again at the appeal, and I'd be saying, how is it that you can hear everything that's gone on except for one thing, and that was what Zach Butters allegedly said. Now, we played it last week. Damien Tardio at 3AW had isolated the sound. You can't really hear, is he saying this, is he saying that? My argument would be that it is completely within the realms of possibility, probability, whatever you have to get to as far as the judgment level, that the umpire didn't hear what he said, or misheard what he said, or heard what he thought he said. But if the microphone picks up every single thing and then doesn't, surely that would tell you that he either didn't yell it or he didn't say it. I just don't buy that there was a microphone malfunction. I just don't think he said it loud enough, which would suggest that as an umpire saying, move it on, the crowd's yelling and all the rest of it, that there is enough mitigation there to suggest that maybe the umpire didn't hear what he said.
Reasonable doubt.
I believe the umpire believes he heard what he said. So again, this is not against the umpire foot. I think he's done nothing wrong in this situation. Might have overreacted a bit if you want to go down that road. But let's just say as it is, I think he believes what he heard, and I think the tribunal should agree that he believed in what he heard. But I also agree that Zach Butters and everything that Zach Butters did in that from the moment that the 50-metre penalty went on suggests that he was completely surprised. Now, when it comes to the tribunal saying, well, how come you guys said this? Don't forget that the players are playing in a game. It's all happening around them. And they gave the interview to Xander McGuire straight after the game with Zach Butters, etc. The umpire didn't do anything until the next day, when he had plenty of time to think about it, when he probably had some support by the umpire's advisor in putting forward such a very important report. So he's had plenty of time to think it through. So from the moment he was asked at the tribunal, he was able to stick with what he had. I just think if ever there was a 0-0 draw, this is it. And we know that Greg Swan got them together and said, look, I think this is the answer. You heard what you heard. You said what you said. And it's been lost in translation. Now, neither of them wanted to go with that. They're actually digging in because they both understand that there's a lot at stake here. But I think we should actually move on from a lot at stake and just get on with it.
Yeah, and here's the easy, or not the easiest solution, but it's a bit what you're starting with. Greg Swan, you're in charge of footy. You're the boss of footy. That's your title, and this is what you come out and do. We've wasted probably, I'm going to say conservatively, Ed, and you tell me if I'm wrong. $20,000+ in this, at least. So this is where we go. Hey, this is what's going to happen. We're the AFL. We support our umpires. We're completely behind them. Port Adelaide, you completely support your player, which you have all the entitlement to do. As you said, you heard that. You said that, or you think you said that. What we're going to do is it's $5,000. Port Adelaide, you're 2.5. The AFL are going to do 2.5. We're going to throw it to umpires, bringing umpires through in the state of South Australia. And that's how you leave it.
Yeah, I wouldn't go that far. I just think they should just say, right.
No, because you want to throw support and you want to show respect to the umpires.
But mate, we've got to... let's go back to... I'm going to go back to Elijah Hollands a lot on this. We've got to stop going all this kumbaya stuff. Just call it as it is.
Yeah, but this one can be settled where you say,
yep,
you think this, you think that. It's somewhere in the middle. As they say in football, there's their honesty, and the real honesty is in the middle. And it's probably somewhere there. And yes, we got it wrong because we actually put Nick Foot in this situation regarding the other stuff. But also he probably thinks that this was said. Zach Butters has probably thought he said that. Hey, let's find some middle ground here and move on.
Can I just say this, Jim? That I think the umpire believed that the microphone would prove his case.
Mm-hmm.
And I reckon Zach Butters believes that the microphone would have proved his case. So therefore, they're both sticking to their respective stories. And I agree with both of them.
Correct.
And the one thing that didn't happen was the microphone didn't come up with the answer. Now, again, I still haven't heard an audio report on whether the microphone dropped out or whether, in fact, a highly sensitive microphone didn't pick it up. I don't know. Yeah. Jeez. We're wasting a lot of time and effort on this, aren't we?
Yeah, a lot of time and a lot of money.
How about we just say, hey, you know what? We can't prove it one way or the other. Let's let it go.
Yeah. Can I play something from Damien Hardwick after they got over the line against us? And let's take a listen to Damien Hardwick.
The holding the ball rules like Chook Lotto at the moment. I sit there and I don't know half the time what's going to happen. We've got a guy that's got an arm pinned. He's waiting for the ball to be called for a stoppage. And the other option is then the guy can dump tackle him. Just blow the whistle and cause a set. It's like we've completely gone away from secondary stoppages because we think it kills the game. At the end of the day, we're going to get players hurt. So either blow the whistle on a free kick or at least be consistent in your interpretation throughout the whole game.
Chook Lotto for Damien Hardwick. And yeah, look, I get his frustration. I do get a little bit frustrated between sometimes we pay when the players are fighting the tackle really quickly and it gets called holding the ball, but then it leaves players who are tackling who have got pressures from coaches who are saying, stick the tackle and things like that. But when a player's fighting the tackle, this is when we turn in the situation where you actually start then getting into the dumping situation because, hang on, this guy's fighting the tackle. I'm behind him. I can't see the ball. So I've got to actually bring him to ground, and then we've got players up on report.
Yeah. I agree with all that. And we're going to go on to it, and let's put it all in the basket. The boundary and field umpires collectively were confused. Our notes say here, the last disposal rule at North Melbourne and Richmond. You'll have to fill me in on that because I didn't see the game. Multiple score reviews of balls 15 metres above the point post.
This one drives me bonkers. So it's actually the one where it's kicked over, the little post, the point post. And I think I might have heard Jared Waitley in one of the calls, and he's normally a pretty patient man when it comes to the AFL rules. And he was, what are they going to see in the arc? You cannot see anything above, conclusive footage when it gets blasted over the top of the little point post.
All right, so Jim, can I?
You're there.
I don't know.
You're standing under it. If you don't know and the boundary umpire don't know, or what's your best guess? Go for
it. Well, yeah, there's that. My answer was going to be, you have 2 goal umpires, and then they're in the right position for all that.
You are very much a part of the 2 goal umpire fan club.
Well, that cuts it out. You've got 1 goal umpire. So let's say the ball's coming in from this side. The goal umpire moves around here. So then he has too far to run to check if it's over the behind post. If you're actually only got to worry about the 7 metres between the goal post and the behind post, you're actually in the right spot.
You know what will happen?
On both sides.
You know what will happen? We'll get all the ones that are in the middle and on the goal line. They'll both look at each other and go, your call.
No, but that's what they're supposed to do. No, the idea is, didn't go through my part. Did it go through yours? No, then it's a goal.
No, I'm talking about the goal line ones when someone's kicking from 50 and about 10 players are jumping on the line and they both go, is it your call or my call?
Well, that's again, the point is that they're standing not on the goal line. They're standing between the point posts out of the way so they can actually make a call. And you've got the cameras as well. Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, I love your persistency with this one, Ed. You haven't got me there yet. Maybe next year you might
Well, let's see. Maybe one day we'll have a crack at my idea on this one because we've tried everyone else's and it's been absolute nonsense.
No, I do.
Maybe I'm getting it all wrong, Jim. Maybe I just should, maybe it's time.
There would be
hang the boots up because it just seems everything we talk about here just gets proven week in, week out to be correct. And yet no one at the AFL wants to look at these things.
No, well,
I'll go to the grave saying that their situation with their drug rules is causing so much more problems for everybody. And I can't understand with this situation why they're talking about the anonymity. Everyone in football, everyone in the world knows about a bloke who's up on drugs charges or anything within 2 seconds. Right? So, let me really push the point. So it's okay for his drug dealer and organised crime to know who's taking drugs, but not the coach. Seriously?
Just one last one. I just think with the boundary and goal umpires, and I do feel for them because the scrutiny and the amount of camera angles that we get back in at home, I feel like they lean into it because it's a safety net. I do feel for them because if they get it wrong and they haven't used the technology, everyone's, why didn't you use it? And then we're also screaming at them, hurry up. So
Jimmy, just for the boundary one, why don't we just make it last touch?
Yeah, that can work, but I think they're going to gradually get there. They're doing last possession first.
Why do we have to do it in instalments?
It's conditioning. That's the way things work. That's the way society works.
How's it worked in Adelaide and the Sandford for the last 8 years without a problem?
We need someone from South Australian footy to tell us that. I haven't tracked it as closely in the South Australian Footy League.
Yeah. Okay. Well, they had 8 years for somebody to go and have a look at and discuss it and talk to the boundary umpires, the players and the field umpires and everybody else. And then these are 8 years of conditioning if you're going to bring this in. I keep saying this. The one that's got me completely flummoxed is the rush behind. You know that it says there's a rule for rush behind and then there's 5 subsets underneath it.
Yep.
For rush behind. Can you believe it?
Yep. I saw one in an under-12s game on Sunday that had me flummoxed.
What happened?
He paid the deliberate rushing behind. I think nearly every kid fell down going, what's going on?
Geez, well, there you go.
Hey, time for the Bartel Medal, Ed.
Yeah.
I go rogue and I award 3, 2, 1 and maybe the occasional 4 votes. But Jamal has put his votes in. He's given 3 votes to Jezza, of course, Jeremy Cameron, 2 to Nick Dacos and 1 to Matt Rowell. So I've got my round 6 votes here, Eddie. 1
Yes.
vote, Colby McKercher, Riccardi from the Giants, your boy Brodie Grundy, Lawson Humphries, Paddy Lipinski and Perryman, a couple of good pies there.
Yeah.
Harry Sheasel owns the Tigers. He gets 2 votes. Lockie Neal, well done on game 300. What an absolute superstar he's been. Same with Harris Andrews, the captain up at the Lions. Walker, Tex Walker and Wilkie was retro footy. It was where the forward and back were both best on ground for each of their respective sides. Sinclair from the Saints is good. And Zach Butters, who's the walking fine machine, but he's a good player as well. Zach Merritt. Justin McInerney from the Swans. Geez, he's having a good year already. And Baz Linker, Bailey Smith.
Before you go to your threes, I thought it was interesting that Zach Butters went up and made a point of shaking hands and showing respect to the umpires before the game as captain. I thought it was a nice touch.
Yeah.
And I think it should be taken into account tonight at the tribunal.
Yeah, it'll be an interesting watch, the tribunal tonight. 3 votes, Paul Curtis. I love Paul Curtis as a footballer. Young Langford from the D's. The Wizard, Nick Watson. Jason Horne-Francis played a magnificent game. Matty Rao was back to his best, of course, with that hand injury. Oh, it's Petrarca. Got 3 votes. Nick the Lizard. Blakey got the medal and the 3 votes from me in that game. And Nick Dacos. And Ed, we have a very rare occurrence this week. We have
This is ridiculous.
We have a 4 voter on our hands.
I'm not copping this.
Yeah, well, bad luck. You're in Sydney and I'm miles away. That's why. Yeah. 4 votes goes to Jezza. Anytime you bag a 10, get 10, you get 4 votes from me. As with Collingwood Football Club themselves, put into their best and fairest voting. I've done the same because they're a great club, Eddie. They're very, very special votes, and Jezza gets the very, very special votes. He gets 4 votes, but.
Would you not have given Dacos 4 votes on the very special votes?
No.
I'm happy for you to do that.
No.
But Dacos got the Pies up in a game, whereas Jezza was playing on witches' hats, and in the end it was like the under-12s kicking to him.
How many times do we see someone kick 10 these days?
No, I'm with you. I'm not taking away from Jezza's
It doesn't sound like you're with me. I feel like you're saying, but you're not saying. That old one that
I think you're seasonally adjusting it the wrong way. I think that Jezza's 10 against completely decimated Dogs down at the Cannery.
Well, the 2 blokes he played he had the majority of the game. So
I would argue that Nick Dacos's performance was certainly on a par, but I would argue vehemently that it was better than.
No. Well, you can argue all you want vehemently.
All right, so give me the leaderboard.
It almost sounded like Bugs Bunny and Elmer Fudd. Varmin. No, Varmin. Anyway, the 2026 leaderboard, 9 votes. We've got Max Gorman. Oh, it's Petrarca. 11 votes, the Bont. And this will put a smile on your face vehemently. Nick Dacos is in the lead on 13 votes.
Fair enough. Okay, he's playing great football. There's no doubt about that. So, Jim, one final question to wrap up this. I wonder, because I was banging on about it, because as I said, I've got to beam up on it about the secrecy rules. From your point of view, you tell me as a player, can you tell if somebody's off when you're out there playing like that? Would you have known from a teammate? And what would you have done?
I'd like to say I would have known. It's always different, and I do keep in mind, and I do write this in my notebook that I use for media and I watch games. I always write at the top at the first header of the page. The game looks easier from level 2 or 3. Just call it level 3. We do have a good perspective. We see all the space on the ground. We're not sweating. Our heart rate's not going 180. We don't have the stress of the coach's box and things like that. But I do hope that I would have noticed the teammate even before the game or at one of the breaks if they were a little bit off, because it seemed more unusual than I've seen in quite some time. But you've got to keep balance with it as well. The fact that we do have the advantage of sitting on a couch or a chair, 10 rows back, that, things are different. But I just don't understand how so many people involved in match day or even the ability to contact someone. And again, I'm not mitigating any of Hollands' role in this, but we've got to protect the young lad. And like I said, As a dad and a father, it felt really, really a tough watch.
So one final one. And again, I'm not fighting on behalf of the Carlton Football Club by any stretch. They will answer everybody in the next couple of days. But again, I'll make my point. Before a game, doctors and physios are working 100 miles an hour to get the players right to get out there on the ground. If you are not allowed to ask questions, if you're not allowed to even lean in on these situations, so I'll make the point that if Michael Voss thought that a player was having a drug episode, he's actually not allowed to ask.
He's allowed to ask that. No. He's allowed to ask and go, are you all right? Are you okay? It's whether the knowledge of the fact that he's actually in the program, you know, the fit to play program, he's not allowed to ask that. So it's quite in his rights to say, hey, mate, you all good? What's going on here?
Exactly. Yeah, you can do that, but you can't get into the specifics. Anyway, I just think what we need to do, well, what's going to happen out of this is there'll be a big investigation into this. It was a horrible situation, and thank God he wasn't cleaned up or had a heart attack or something else happened on the ground. So it was bad enough as it was. And as AFL, everybody keeps saying, we're all in on making sure that Elijah's okay. But geez, this is one where there is absolutely no winners.
Yeah, and I hope the AFL are asking themselves the same questions, because you got the ARC and the match day officials as well.
Oh, how many people are sitting on that bench from the AFL?
Yep. So we'll wait and see, Ed. It'll be very curious to see what comes out of this.
Might be a question we'll send to the AFL and just ask how many people actually sit on the bench as observers, and what are they there to observe, including emergency umpires, 4 umpires on the ground, boundary umpires, goal umpires, the ARC. How many people in the ARC, et cetera, et cetera. It'd be interesting situation to work through how many people could have intervened when the answer was none.
Yep.
Anyway,
be fascinating.
Wednesday, we'll take your questions. Jimmy, there's so much to enjoy about the footy. I hope we can get back to actually talking about some of the good things of the game, but there was a bit to go through today, and that's going to continue to bounce around. You're on Footy Classified tonight. You'll have first crack at the Butters Tribunal, and we've still got Lance Collard's appeal at St Kilda, which is another vexed issue, probably more vexed than Zach Butters, to be perfectly honest. Yep. But we'll get to that later in the week. Good on you, mate. Catch you on Wednesday when we take your emails and we go through them, and then on Thursday as we preview the next round of footy. This has been Eddie and Jimmy.